Hello and welcome to Arch Eats. With me as always is my co-host and cohort Cheryl Bear.
This episode of Arch Eats is sponsored by St. Louis Symphony Orchestra.
In this episode that we've dubbed The Love Connection, Cheryl and I are going to discuss our picks for the most romantic restaurants in town, as well as where we spend a romantic breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Then we'll end up, as we always do, with a rant, this one on to-go boxes. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it, in our opinion. But first, we always start off with what I can't stop thinking about, and I'm going to butt right in line, as I usually do here, and go first. I had a caprese salad not long ago just to see how the wintertime tomatoes tasted because I'm not a big fan.
You broke the rules.
I know, but these were really good. Not, summertime, mid-July good, but really good. And I found out that they came from Tony White, a.k.a. Tony Tomato, Tony's Family Farms, who he's all around town. He sources, in the off-season, he sources hydroponic tomatoes from a nearby grower until his gardens get going and growing in the springtime. But those of you that have eaten wintertime tomatoes around town at some of the better restaurants have had Tony's tomatoes. The Crossing, Westchester, Annie Gunn's, Twisted Tree, Tony supplies all these. And if you see a big, fat, red, ripe tomato in the wintertime, we have Tony Tomato to thank.
Okay, because
how's that for alliteration? Tony Tomato to thank.
Well, I was wondering about that because I have been seeing them on a lot of menus around town. And it just goes against everything you're told about eating in season and all of that. But basically because they're just typically not good this time of year.
No, they're pink at best.
Yes.
But I saw a flat of Tony's cherry tomatoes in the wintertime on the vine, and it smelled like summertime. It smelled like that tomato smell, and it was amazing. I mean, it took me right back to the middle of summer. Thank you, Tony Tomato. And I did talk to him the other day, and I found out, this is kind of interesting, he's building a series of hoop houses. That's a fabric-covered kind of Quonset hut-looking structure that speeds growing and ripening in the springtime. And the bottom line of that is St. Louis will soon be seeing heirloom tomatoes in May instead of in mid-July.
Oh, he's doing the Lord's work.
I know. I mean, anything you can do to extend the tomato season in St. Louis is a great thing because we're stuck in the middle of the country.
Yes. No, this is great.
What's on your plate today, young lady?
Somewhat related. If we're talking about tomatoes, I'm going into something with tomato sauce. So I hadn't been to Trattoria Marcella, which is it's just an iconic St. Louis Italian institution, been around forever. Gosh, how long now? 30?
It's got to be 30 years. It's the flagship of the Komarek brothers.
Yes.
They've got another restaurant, but this is their main guy.
Yeah, just a titan of the St. Louis Italian scene. And it, honestly, it had been a while since I'd been there. And, you find yourself going to other places here and there. But I was there for dinner this past week, and I had lasagna there that it blew my mind. Have you ever had their lasagna?
No, but there's a lot of good lasagnas in town. Now I have another one for the list.
Oh, well, it was just outrageous. First of all, it could feed about 4 people, which I've been told they've actually cut their portion. So
is it the size of a brick, or is it?
Bigger.
Give me some reference.
It's bigger than the size of a brick. Maybe like the size of a football.
Cobblestone?
It's so luscious. It's so rich. It almost kind of it's the cousin of the Roman gnocco at Louis. It kind of gave me that same feeling because, well, it has Italian sausage and ground beef. So you get this kind of sweetness and rich flavor from both of those ground meats. And then they do the tomato sauce. They do an Italian bechamel. So it just has that richness to it. Cheese, of course. I thought I had died and gone to heaven. So I can't stop thinking about it.
And when I go there, one of the things that I always have is their toasted ravioli. One of the best in town.
Unbelievable.
Clearly handmade. They're all kind of different shapes, and you can tell that someone has crafted these things and they didn't get punched out of a machine. That's how I start every meal at Trattoria Marcella. It's just a great place.
It's wonderful.
And always has been, always will be. And they've had staffers there that have been there like since the inception.
Yes.
I think there's 2 or 3 or 4 of them. I think between them, they've got over 100 years of service at that one restaurant.
Yes. I mean, that was another thing I commented on, and I'm so sad that I forgot her name. But our server, it was some of the best service I've had, gosh, in memory. She was on it, and everyone from the server assistants to the server to the host. It was just top notch across the
Great
board.
place. It's a destination restaurant and a neighborhood restaurant all in one.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll be right back.
Join your St. Louis Symphony Orchestra and the In Unison Chorus for a one-of-a-kind celebration of Black History Month, featuring Grammy and NAACP Image Award-winning vocalist BB Winans. Don't miss this joyful celebration of unity, freedom, and Black musical expression on February 23rd at Stiefel Theater. Get your tickets today at slso.org.
And now, back to the show.
So today, the idea for the Love Connection show was that Cheryl and I would both pick our 5 top romantic places in town, and we'll go through them one at a time. And it wasn't an easy choice. We had a little bit of a list that we had to whittle down from.
We did. Well, and before we begin, I must acknowledge that you are wearing red today for the occasion.
Yes.
And I do feel like I missed an opportunity here. So you are especially festive, and I certainly appreciate
After
that.
you were dressed up for that Christmas show, I thought I better style up myself.
Yeah, coming as Cupid the next time we do this. But no, you're right. We did. I mean, I think it's very interesting that St. Louis does, when you think about it, has a lot of really cozy, intimate spots that would be perfect.
And we kind of started off with this master list, and I started like checking them off, and I noticed a pattern. So I'll go ahead and kick this off.
Yeah, please.
And some of mine are a little bit more old school, and I'm not exactly sure why that is, except some of these places are darker, cozier, candlelit, brick walls. I think the quintessential place is Sydney Street Cafe.
Yes.
If you ask, 10 people in St. Louis, the most romantic place, 3 or 4 of them, I think, will say Sydney Street. It just feels wonderful in there. Again, it's the brick walls and that kind of Benton Park vibe to it, and great food all the time, high quality, consistent. Kevin Nashen's very creative.
Mm-hmm.
He changes that menu a lot. But he will do, and he's kept, for the traditionalists, the lobster turnovers and that peppercorn tenderloin and the steak tartare. Anyway, a great place. And I even have a favorite table there. It's a deuce on the elevated area that they call the balcony. It's table number 30.
Oh.
And as we go through these, I'll probably just put these in the show notes, but I have table numbers. That's how geeky I am and romantic I am. I have table numbers at each one of my places.
I love it. Well, I couldn't agree with you more. His food just has such an elegance to it, and I think that adds to it. Also, the way the server comes out and actually explains the menu to you, that kind of adds to this intimacy there. So, no, I couldn't agree more.
And it's one of these places that's been around so long that people forget about it. And writers like us tend not to write about it because everybody wants to know the newest, buzziest
you're
place.
chasing the shiny new thing.
You are, and it's a shame because places like this have been around, will be around, but it remains one of the most romantic places in town. Along the same lines is, for me, Paul Mano's.
Oh, their lamb chops. For God's sake.
On my list, old school class, tableside finishing everywhere. Even Paul Mano himself he's always there. He'll either be wheeling out these carts, and I've seen him actually wait on tables just to kind of take the pulse and stay in touch with the diners. It's fun to see the owner working a table. So
he's just one of those people who hospitality just radiates from. It was like he was born to do this job. Absolutely.
He's so good at what he does, and that's kind of I won't call it a neighborhood place, but you see a lot of regulars there, including Frank Sinatra, who's on the walls and in your ears, right?
I love it.
He's ever present. But, you mentioned the rack of lamb, legendary. Their lasagna, I'll vouch for that.
Oh.
Really good. Lobster ravioli, sea bass. There's so many things there that are so great, and they're all finished tableside with a side of pasta that's set on a hot plate, and it's rip-roaring hot, and it's hot to the last bite. That's the best part about places that have that kind of tableside finishing.
And here's a pro tip for there. You can actually get the special pasta of the day as your side dish. I think there might be like a minimal upcharge for it. But a lot of people think, oh, gosh, I don't know what I want to do if I want the special pasta or that. So you get the rack of lamb with the side of pasta.
And the other I guess it's a pro tip, but it's a suggestion. I remember the first time I went in there, and I was so excited, and I really agonized over what I wanted to have. I decided on exactly the item it was, and then the server comes up and rattles off about 10 specials.
Yes.
Every one of them delicious, and I would have
Yes.
eaten it. And I literally remember like fake throwing the menu over my shoulder, like, I don't need this. Anyway, Paul Mano's out in Chesterfield, wonderful place. Well, let's hear a couple of years.
Yes. So, kind of along those lines of like a quintessential classic St. Louis restaurant. And it's funny we're thinking of this as such a classic right now, but it's Brasserie, Gerard Craft's lovely French restaurant in the Central West End that been there for a long time now. I would say it's kind of, in a way, it's almost like this flagship of what he's doing at this point. And I don't know if it's just because it's French and it just leans into that quintessential, Parisian brasserie vibe.
It's a flagship French bistro,
Yes.
probably the best example we have in this town.
And they're, you talk about legendary dishes, their roast chicken. I mean, he's told me in the past that if he were to take that off the menu, he would have riots in the street.
And I think that's I think they press
Yes.
that. It's like a brick pressed
Yes.
chicken. So there's some additional char that gets imparted by
Yes.
whatever weight he sets upon it. But it's really, really good.
You get the crispiness on the outside. The meat is so juicy. It is, you always feel like you're, it's a cop out to order the chicken at places sometimes.
Right,
This is not
right.
that case.
Food people never order chicken
Exactly.
except at Brasserie.
Except at Brasserie. Exactly.
And this time of year, they have cassoulet on the menu, one of
Oh,
the
gosh.
bistro favorites.
The best, maybe the best wintertime dish
it
of
is.
all time.
Yeah, short of maybe a lamb shank.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, the thing I like about Brasserie too, it's in true Brasserie fashion. They've got a croque monsieur on the menu. They've got a
Yes.
burger on the menu, and it's a really, really good burger.
It
so
is.
you think you should go and have, Côte de Boeuf or something, but no, have a Brasserie burger because
Yes.
it's really good.
And a glass of French wine with it. You can't think of a better
Goes
pairing
without
than
saying.
that. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. While we're on the French kick or mindset here, Bistro La Florissant, the Galina's place, I know a lot of people were really, they mourned the loss of Zoe Robinson, a esteemed St. Louis restaurateur, veteran of the business. When she closed Bar Le Frere on Wydown, I think a lot of people thought, my gosh, how are we ever going to capture what she did there in another place? And the Galinas have done such a good job. They've put their own identity on it, but they've definitely stayed true, I think, to the ethos of this immersive French dining salon sort of experience. I would say rather than being super sultry like Zoe's place, it's more pretty.
Yeah,
but
it is. It's prettier, but
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's Bar Le Frere. I used to call it BLF, and this is another BLF.
It's
Bistro
BLF?
La Florissant is another BLF, so it's not
Exactly.
entirely different. And what I like to do there is go to the bar that doesn't seat very many people,
Mhm.
have a French 75, roll a
Oof.
flute of champagne, and start off with those gougères or those financiers that they have there.
Those
It's just
gougères are
it's just
life-changing.
isn't it a wonderful thing? It's a wonderful way to start. They've got things like that at their Spritz hour, I think, which
Mhm,
goes from, I
mhm.
want to say 5 to 6. But anyway, great place. Very romantic. Perfect for this time of year. Romance knows no season, so go there at any time of
Oh.
year. And that terraced patio they have is like the best in town. Just hang out on the different levels there. That's one of my favorite patios.
And
in
I'll
town.
also tell you, and I think we need to be clear on this, I don't think what we're talking about as far as romance and things of that sort are limited to, to romantic relationships. I had one of the best meals of my life at Bistro La Florissant with two of my dear girlfriends, and we are still talking about that. And it's just, we went on our nice lady date and we had an excellent
lady
time
date,
there.
yeah.
It was great.
And it's tough over there because that's like Restaurant Row. There's like
Oh.
5 good restaurants,
Yes.
5 really good restaurants within a stone's throw of one another at that, what is it, Wydown and Hanley. And another one is on your list.
Yes, a car.
Oh, love it.
Bernie Lee's, delightful. It's so intimate. This is the restaurant Bernie Lee was supposed to open because he is just this, I would say it's not, hospitality, of course, he nails that, but it's less about, this kind of restaurant level hospitality. And again, this intimacy of him throwing a dinner party for
Well,
you.
exactly. And his place, if you remember, the original was 12 seats and that patio.
Absolutely.
And he went through the pandemic with that. How he survived the pandemic on 12 seats and a patio, I'll never know, but he did. And about a year ago, he acquired that space next door, right? The hair salon.
Yes.
And you've been there, I assume.
Yes.
It's magical. It's a
Yes.
magical room.
It's magical. I mean, that's the thing. Bernie, we have I would say we have a handful, and this might be something to explore at some point, of these very stylish restaurateurs. I would put Kevin Brennan in there. I would put Ben Paremba, Bernie Lee, Zoe Robinson was definitely one of them, where they take as much care in putting together an experience as far as like the decor and the feel of the place as they do in the food. And I think that's what Bernie just nails so well. But also, I'm not saying that to take away from his food. His food is delicious. I feel like he's been an under kind of the radar chef here in St. Louis for a while, and we just need to be singing his praises.
Not a big menu, but a really good menu.
Yes.
It's all some of Malaysian dishes and dishes from his travels across the world. And for those of you that remember the former spot, you know, that you can't get in because it's too small or it's too busy, nobody goes there.
Yes.
The new space is, I think, triple the size. And that one banquette, all those tables are great. It's a really cozy space.
Yeah.
And there's also a 4-top, I think, in the window. Do you know about this? He does not reserve that. He said that's his table of the moment.
Oh.
And it's one of those things that if you feel like, kind of on a random thing, I've got 3 people, is that table. It's the C&B scene table. And I wish I knew the table number, but I don't. But anyway, that's another thing that Bernie has going over there. Well, he's just one of the city's just loveliest people for sure.
He is. And what's funny about this is as we're talking, should we dub that stretch of Wydown Romance Row? I mean, you have a couple places on your list too.
Yeah, you probably could for sure.
Yeah.
And this is one, Cheryl, that might surprise you. Okay.
Oh.
Most people talk about Bailey's Chocolate Bar when they talk about romantic restaurants. Bailey's Chocolate Bar, it's legendary for its desserts and its chocolate martinis and all these fun things. But if you remember, a couple years ago, it moved upstairs.
Yes.
When the first floor became a restaurant called Pop, a champagne bar / restaurant. So that's one of my picks is go to Pop.
Oh.
Start off in the bar along that banquette.
Yes.
The one I'm talking about with the little round pillows and the tufted leather upholstery.
Oh,
it's just the coziest little bar in town. Have some champagne, have a little light dinner, and then head upstairs and have a chocolate martini and so you can basically have, appetizers, dinner, and dessert all in the same building. And I just thought it was a great idea. Everybody loves champagne. The Baileys, that's one of the things they said they have in common, and that's something that they've always wanted to do, was do a champagne restaurant. So
I'd also put the Baileys on that list of, restaurateurs who really get kind of creating this stylish vibe there. And I think that's kind of a common theme we're seeing here in our discussions is the food is definitely an essential component, but it's that feeling when you walk into a place, you feel something by the vibe.
And it was very intentional by those guys. I remember when Dave opened the place, he said, this will be a place to have a first date or a 500th.
Yes.
And, I think he's right there. It's a place, he said, what did he say? To pair bubbles with food or more bubbles.
Yes.
You got to like that attitude.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's,
always more bubbles
/ Bailey's Chocolate Bar. We'll throw those both in as one.
I love it. Well, I think we all know my love of Wright's Tavern. Wright's Tavern to me is just, and here we are in Romance
You're stuck
Row.
on that corner.
I am. I'm stuck on that corner. I can't. Someone get me an Uber somewhere else. So I was just going to say that because I will take my Uber to Fox and the Hound. So Wright's, let me just go ahead and say, I think Wright's is, maybe it's the lighting, the dark walls, the way the light is dancing off these glasses that are set on the tables, the oysters, the fire from the kitchen.
And the history of the place. It was E. Fratellini, which was one of the most romantic restaurants in town and one of the most beloved. So he just picked up that baton and ran with it.
Yes. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and I'm going to do a combination one here because I want to give my love to
I have
rights.
a few of those up my sleeve too.
I
Go
know,
ahead.
I know. We can't help ourselves. But I'm going to move a little bit further east, and I'm going to go to Fox and the Hounds, which has been around forever. The way I've always described it is if it's, you think of like closing like a backroom deal and you're drinking brandy out of snifters and smoking cigars. And I think there's a dogs playing poker.
I think there is.
Portrait
Yes,
on the wall.
yes.
Think fireplace,
A
dark.
real fireplace, a wood burning
a real
fireplace.
the only kind.
I know,
The only
it is.
acceptable kind. That place to me, it just embodies that, like, I'm going to have my dinner, at maybe Wright's or wherever, and then I'm going to just sink into one of these couches, sit by the fire, I usually get port when I go and drink there. So,
Wow.
I mean, it just doesn't get better than
That's
that.
a perfect wintertime
Yes.
drink by the fire, as is an Irish coffee, which is another thing. In those footed mugs, those Irish coffee, just
Perfect.
like you'd expect to see in a place like that.
Yes.
Yeah, that is a quintessential romantic wintertime bar. When it's
Yes.
really cold and nasty outside, snuggle up by the fire.
I don't think there's anywhere cozier. It's my favorite bar in St. Louis, period. And wintertime, it doesn't get better.
Love it. Speaking of bars, and speaking of what you were talking about, you're talking about brasserie. Just a great, and I love brasserie in the summertime. Sitting outside on that patio is the best. But next door to brasserie is the former Taste by Niche, which they have dubbed Brass Bar. Pretty much the same. It's not the same as brasserie. It's the same as the other place was. It's a little darker, cozier, candlelit tables, and it serves, three purposes. I think you can go there for a little aperitif before dinner. You can go there for a nightcap after dinner, and you can have dinner there too.
Yes.
And it's brasserie's menu. So it's a little, brasserie's pretty rowdy and pretty fun. And this is a little bit, it's scaled back a little bit. So if you want a little bit more privacy and a little bit more, table time, intimate table time, I should say, with one other, Brass Bar is a good way to go. And the thing about it that people go there and don't even know about it, up the stairway is that little loungy, soft seating lounge up there with those couches, and that is a really good place to wind down.
Yes.
With an after dinner drink.
You walk into that space, and it's one of those places where the door closes behind you, and you are instantly like, just the rest of the world falls away, and you just sink in and you just immerse yourself in it.
It's a great place, and it's overlooked because everybody's thinking brasserie, but the next door neighbor's pretty cool too.
Yes. Well, and I guess I'm a creature of habit or geography or whatever. Because
are we going back to
we're
Hanley
not.
and Whiteout?
We're not. We're actually going right around the corner from Brass Bar.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So speaking of places where you walk in, close the door, and you're somewhere else, my last pick is Mainlander. I am so obsessed with Mainlander. I love this place tremendously. Recent James Beard Award nominees for the national category of Best New Restaurant, I must say. So Blake and Gordon, congratulations. That's
a big deal.
Yes, it's a huge deal.
Anything James Beard is huge. National attention is huger. And they were on there with 19 other restaurants.
Yes.
So I wish them the best. Talk about it because it's a transportive experience that is, you almost have to do it to appreciate it.
You really do. You can't even describe it. You walk through the doors, you are in a mid-century modern dinner party. I am in 1963, let's say. I'm in, someone's home. They've invited me there.
Somebody's somewhat kitschy home.
Think tiki glasses, think velvet artwork, you name it. This place, they had one of those silver rotating trees for the holidays, those old, Christmas trees that they change colors as the color wheels on them. I mean, my grandma had one of those in her house. And
they start the meal with a kind of a platter of goodies.
Yes.
It's, again, keeping with the Polynesian theme, but they call it a poo-poo platter.
Exactly.
Right? On a Lazy Susan, right?
Yeah.
They play off the mid-century restaurant items like rumaki and baked Alaska, and you see riffs on all these things.
Yes.
Beef Wellington or tenderloin Wellington. There's all these these, and a lot of them are very immersive as far as watching, and they're carved and cut at the table, and it's just an experience like no other. And everyone, this is bar none, and this is pretty rare. Everyone I've talked to that goes there loves it, has loved it. I haven't heard one bad thing about it. And everybody said, I can't wait to go back. When he changed the menus are a month at a time. Can't wait to go the next time.
Yeah.
18 seats. That's it.
I've never heard anyone say, and what's interesting about it is you can explain what you love about it. You can try to explain, I guess, but it's just hard to capture it because it's just so transportive. And I think part of that has to do, and this is why I put it on my romantic list, is because you walk in there, like I went in there with my partner and he and I felt like we time traveled together. And we were on this little journey together, and it just felt like the two of us were, sitting at this table, and it was like we were on vacation, but not.
And it's like one of those all-inclusive things because you've paid in advance.
Yes.
There's no signage except for the logo. You don't really know where you're going, and you walk in and everything's, you don't really have to worry about anything. And that was designed purposefully by the two owners. When I first talked to Blake about it, I thought, man, this is pretty far out there. I'm not sure if this is going to go. And it's just not just a home run, but a grand slam home run. Slam. Again, he's been recognized nationally. So,
yes.
So,
and I can't take away from, Blake is brilliant in that kitchen there. I cannot take away from his partner Gordon's hospitality. That's another thing that I would put the romantic needle kind of moves in that direction, because he's so warm. He's so gracious. You feel like you're the only person in the room when he's talking to you.
You do. It's a great experience. Yeah. Speaking of wonderful chefs, Chef Lou Rook III out at Annie Gunn's has been there for a long time, long
He's
time.
A legend.
And he's been running that kitchen for decades. And the reason, and it's been consistent for decades. And that's one of the reasons I recommend that restaurant all the time. And you walk in, especially that front room, it's very clubby. It's very, almost ski loungy. They've got the fireplaces there, and it's just very homey. And I love those. There's a couple fireplace tables there that are I just love it when I can get one of them. I've got those table numbers too. You can see them on the show notes later.
I like this inside scoop.
And but they also have these things they call snugs, and I've never heard anybody call this, but it's a room with a little pocket door. Some are seat up to 8, but the one that I like for 2 people seats up 2 to 4, and it's smaller. It's not like you're in this massive room. But anyway, it's a really cool way to have a romantic evening. And, I didn't say this before, but it doesn't have to be Valentine's Day. It can be, romance knows no season. You can call folks at all these restaurants and say, I'd like to set up something a little special. Can you throw a tablecloth on that table that you don't throw a cloth on? Can I arrange for some, votives to be put on the table? I'm not talking like Liberace candelabras. I'm just talking about little subtle things like that. Rose petals, if that's your thing. There's all kinds of little touches that you can do that restaurant folks don't mind doing if asked. That's their business. That's their thing. And if they can make your night memorable, that's what they do. So there's a lot of little, just think out of the box. You don't have to accept the base offering there. You can customize it. You can change it to however you want to.
Yeah. If you give notice and you ask kindly, they're in the hospitality business. They want to do these things. I used to love doing things like this for people. It's what we live for.
Yeah. And anyway, that's the part that, again, we're in a Valentine's Day time, but you can turn any night into a romantic night. You just have to think about it a little bit.
Absolutely.
I talked about this one time on the radio, and the radio host, I was telling him all these things you could do, and he gives me kind of the side eye, and he goes, do people really do that? He didn't say stuff, but he said, do people really do that? And I took a second. I said, the smart ones do.
Exactly.
And I left it at that, and he shook his head and said, okay. But anyway, there you go.
Can you talk to mine, please?
Okay, before Cheryl and I get into our picks for a romantic day out, I want to give a shout out, a Valentine's Day shout out to Rick Lewis of Grace Meat and 3 for his out-of-the-box thinking. You probably know what I'm talking about, Cheryl.
I do.
He does a bouquet of chicken tenders.
This is outrageous. The best bouquet ever to receive.
And he puts it in a florist box that you can see through, along with some carnations. And,
Unbelievable.
And that's his thing. And you can pick it up. You can order in advance and pick it up at Grace Meat and 3. It's the coolest, funniest, kitschiest. But it's, give him credit for thinking out of the box. He one-upped it this year.
Or I guess he's thinking in the box. He's putting the tenders in the box, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's on a little stick. It's just the best. So this year he's done something that he's never done. I've never heard of. You see these seafood towers everywhere and all these. He's done a fried food tower at Grace Meat and 3. Just available on Valentine's Day. It's over $100, but he's got chicken tenders as well as tender lobster.
Mm-hmm.
He's got fried catfish. He's got a calamari and crawfish Frito misto. He's got caviar, which is obviously not fried. But anyway, it's available on Valentine's night. And he's just trying this. He said, I'm just going to see what happens. And it's literally on a tower. And he said, if it goes over well, you'll see it from time to time at Grace Meat and 3. Happy Valentine's Day.
I love it.
Rick Lewis.
He is the king of comfort, I'll tell you. So I bet that's going to be wonderful.
I tasted it the other day. I tasted a sample. Lots of fun. So we'll move on to the next part of the show where Cheryl and I just thought we'd take a day, a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and say, let's do a romantic breakfast, midday snack or lunch, and dinner. I thought that was your idea, actually. I thought it was really fun.
Yeah. If we were thinking of our ideal day out, if we wanted to celebrate Valentine's Day.
Right. Doesn't have to be Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Romance knows no season. Did I say that before?
I think so.
Okay.
I think Susie's a lucky lady here. We'll see. But so my romantic day out, these aren't even necessarily like these stereotypical, romancy, intimate restaurants, because I would probably start mine out with Songbird. Songbird, it's a restaurant in the Grove. It's on Shoto. Christine Meyer, the owner, is revered by the St. Louis restaurant community. She's been around for a while, and she's awesome.
She was one of her cohorts one time said that Chris Meyer has an MBA in hospitality.
Yeah. And was that...
I love that. That's a great... I don't have to say any more.
Yeah. And, when you think of some of the names who consider her among the greats, I mean, Matt McGuire of Louie and Wright's says she's top of the game. So if he's giving his seal of approval, that's like the Good Housekeeping.
Yeah, he
seal
says
of
she
approval.
was a top-notch front of the house person.
Yep.
And that's not even kind of what she's doing at this place. She's more the chef.
Yeah, she is. But I think the reason I put Songbird on my list, besides the fact that the food is so good, is there's such a sweetness to this place. I love it. It's sweet, it's light, it's beautiful. I don't know. I love going there. I feel great when I go there, probably because I
know what you're getting to. I hope I do.
Yes, I am eating her combo breakfast sandwich. It is my favorite breakfast sandwich in town. It's one of my favorite sandwiches in town. Very simple. Sourdough bread, fried egg, aged white cheddar cheese, smoked bacon, and I guess that goes without saying, Applewood smoked bacon. And she puts a little bit of sea salt on it, but then she puts a little bit of honey. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't know, can you leave the honey off? She's like, I promise you, please put the honey on there. It just takes it to this different level, transcendent.
And nothing says romance like a sloppy breakfast sandwich.
Exactly right. Exactly. Well, a little honey on there, a
little honey.
And then you wash it down. Well, I don't know if you're washing it down, more like you're kind of immersing yourself in the indulgence of her Songbird latte, which it's a latte, but she uses salted caramel and a little bit of smoked maple in there. So you're just getting this like sweet, brown, sugary, caramely richness to it. And it's balanced because of that little bit of the salt in there. So
sounds great.
She's a genius, I'll tell you.
Where do you go for lunch?
So lunch, I am going to Asado del Sur, the South American grill in Maplewood. And I think there's just something about the idea of like grilled South American meats, like a beach barbecue that just makes me feel like it's appropriate for this sort of experience.
Yeah, there's a Daniel and Maria own that place. They're, again, two of the nicest, loveliest, most hospitable people in town. I think he sources his skirt steaks and things like that from different places. It's cut above stuff.
He does.
Literally.
He does.
And I remember he told me, he said that the lobster bisque there is, he goes, and I've tasted lobster bisque all over the world, and this one is the best in the world. And I went, oh, that's pretty high praise.
That's pretty bold, but
so anyway,
it's
I'm here. I'll tell you, it's really good bisque.
It is so good. And speaking of like romance, I would have a love affair with this chimichurri sauce. Their chimichurri is the best I've ever had. I love it. So Asada del Sur is where I'm going for lunch.
Yeah, they've got nice little booths in there. It's a cozy little place.
Kind of cozy, warm. I think it's that exposed brick vibe adds to the mystique there. Drinks. I am going.
Gotta have drinks.
I mean, you have to have drinks after
lunch.
It's
a romantic day out, for God's sakes. We gotta have drinks.
Exactly. I mean, I think there's always a reason for them, but in this particular occasion, we're going to have our afternoon drinks at 21C at the bar right there by Idle Wolf, the hotel.
The museum hotel.
The museum hotel that opened in Midtown. First of all, the space is gorgeous. The drinks are delicious. And then you can actually take your drink and wander around the entire hotel. It's a museum. It's as much a museum and art gallery as it is a hotel and restaurant.
It really is special. There's a lot going on there. And it is a hotel, and it's a spa and a health club. So it's got staycation possibilities. Speaking of romance,
yes,
that we can't neglect either. And I'm sure over Valentine's Day, there's going to be a lot of folks walking around that hotel and through the museum with their cocktails. Doesn't that sound charming?
I think it would be especially fun too, is if the person that you were meeting, maybe you didn't go together, but you met there. There's something about, meeting at the hotel bar that, I don't know, it just adds
scandalous.
To I know, it adds to the experience there.
So you go from Idle Wolf. You're just having cocktails there, but I could turn that into a romantic meal too. But I don't want to butt in because I do that too much.
No, you're great. Well, I probably wouldn't turn down some snacks. I mean, I think cocktails always have to go with snacks. So they had this sobrasada toast there that is whipped. I think it was whipped goat cheese and this paprika and garlicky spreadable Spanish sausage. And here we are, a little bit of honey drizzled on there.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd twist my arm. I'd have a snack there.
You might never leave.
Exactly. But I would, because I think I would end with dinner at Mainlander.
Oh, we're back to Mainlander.
We're back to Mainlander. I can't get enough. That's probably where I would go. I would say I'd either go to Mainlander or Wright's for dinner.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, that's my night out. I hope my partner's listening. He can take notes.
So I would start out my romantic day at Ivy Cafe in Clayton.
Oh, I love Ivy.
Their specialty is tartines. That's just basically an open-faced toast. Theirs are quite tall. Open-faced sourdough toast. The owner makes the sourdough. The owner also makes some of the pottery there, which is, Julie can do everything.
Yeah, they have little messages on the bottom of them that are so cute.
It's so cute to watch when you turn that plate over that you don't dump anything on your laps. But anyway, they have great toasts, obviously. They're all named after the streets in Clayton, which is kind of cute. But they also have sourdough pancakes.
Ooh.
And this is something on the menu that I've seen that I want to try, and I haven't. Coconut milk sourdough French toast with berries and cream cheese butter blend. Are you there? Doesn't that just sound like the best?
I mean, you can just stop right there and you've had a great day.
So speaking of great lattes, a lavender honey latte. They have an iced dreamsicle latte.
Ooh.
Anyway, this is just this light, airy space. They have a lot of green plants in a green wall, and it's just charming. Little bistro tables and all these. It's open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Breakfast goes until 11, but that's where I would go, I think, in the morning. And then I'd run down to Beauwood by Niche for lunch.
How could you not?
And it's just a great place. It's in a nursery, as most people know, and there's 3 rooms, really 3 experiences. The main room is floor to ceiling windows, and it's just light and airy, and the food is so good. And then they've got outside, kind of in the retail area, another cafe. It's a totally different vibe out there. And then, if the weather's nice, you go outside onto that patio and you're literally dining among the plants and trees that are for sale. Again, the menu's small, but it is just, everything's very well executed and it really feels celebratory. It feels like you're almost in a different city. It's that cool.
So my 2 pro tips are just, things to note about going to Beauwood. Number 1, you will walk out with a plant. You will be taking a plant home with you. It is impossible to go in that place. I'm not even a plant person. and I walk out with a plant every time I'm there. So just be aware it's going to happen.
Yeah, they're going by left and right. You're
Exactly.
I'll take one of those.
And they're so beautiful. You want to be a plant person when you're there. And the second thing, don't sleep on the oatmeal. I know oatmeal sounds like a very weird thing to just...
I sleep on oatmeal
Oh,
all the time.
Don't sleep on it. Their oatmeal.
I'll eat it at home. Okay, good. All right, I'll try it.
It's like baked. It's served in this like beautiful little crock with all these like nuts and goodies on it. So I'm telling you, their oatmeal, what I usually do is I order the oatmeal and then share it with somebody so I can get something else too.
Yeah, and when they're eating, you go buy your plant.
Exactly, pretty much.
So Bowood's cool. It's a great place for brunch, lunch. They're not open for dinner anymore. They're just open for private events. It was a great place for dinner too while that lasted. But for dinner, I thought about this long and hard, and I think I would end up on your corner at Bar Moro.
How can you not end up on that corner?
I think it's, for my money, it's like its predecessor. The walls are black. There's, they're real candles, not those ones with the lights in them.
They're a classy joint.
Soft. I mean, I think it's the sexiest restaurant in town. And again, it's a Ben Parumba restaurant. He really sets the table with all kinds of very studied items. You sit at the bar that looks like it's somewhat cluttered, but it's cluttered that way on purpose. There's Iberico ham on top. There's some plates stacked over here. Sit at the bar. It's a lovely experience. Or, one of the tables is fine too. There's a table by the window that I really like. And the menu is again, somewhat adventurous. There's some different things on there, but there's servers to help you through. There's a lot of tinned fish, which a lot of St. Louisans aren't familiar with. There's, I think, a gin and tonic menu with 6 gin and tonics on it. There's a vermouth and a sherry menu. Again, I don't know my vermouths and sherries, so I said, how do I do this? And there's pairings, though. If you're going to have that, you should have this sherry. I go, really? Or this vermouth. I go, oh, okay. Anyway, great suggestions. Some of the best I've ever had with some things that I wasn't familiar with. So it's an adventure. It's sexy from start to finish. And again, you can go there late night too. They're open later, and you can go grab a Basque cheesecake and some port. It's the best thing in the world.
Sexiest restaurant in town.
That's how I'll end my day at Balmoral.
And nothing sexier than and I'm not even joking, than a big, thing of ham on the bar.
So after all this romance and all these wonderful places, we're going to get down a little bit to end the segment and talk about to-go boxes, and specifically to-go boxes that are dropped at the table. I want to say, can't we just return to the time when the plates were cleared? They'd take them into the back and they'd bring the to-go stuff back in little boxes and put it in a little bag. And boom, you're good to go. I think when COVID came along, I understand that there were some changes to that. But now that COVID is in the rearview mirror, I say, let's do all that stuff in the back. If you leave it on the table for me to do, I'm going to have splashes and spills. And the last thing I'm going to remember is, the sauce that I spilled on my shirt, loading up my to-go box. Are you with me on this, or do you like to... Or you like to fill it up at the table?
I could not be more with you on this. My, former front of house self, and, I've managed places too. If I saw my server drop off a to-go box, I'd just lose my mind about it. And I mean, we're not talking about you're at a diner. I mean, okay, that's
I'm not talking
fine.
about the super casual places.
If I'm in a super casual place and they drop stuff out, okay, that's fine. I'm talking places where I'm dropping, like serious money, and this is an elegant, elevated restaurant, and they're like throwing a to-go box and telling me to have at it. Oh my gosh, it's a step of service that I feel like is essential.
I totally agree. Don't make us do the work. That's why we're here, to not work, right?
Exactly. Next thing we're going to be cooking. I mean, as a server, you're taking the plates back to the kitchen anyway.
Right, exactly.
So whatever.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to Arch Eats. Be sure to follow us and share with your friends, because we put out new episodes every other Friday. And we always provide links in the show notes for everything you heard about today. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and follow along on Instagram at St. Louis Mag. And feel free to give us a follow personally at George Mahey and Cheryl A. Bear.
If you loved what you heard, show us some love by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. And if you're hungry for even more content, you can subscribe to our dining newsletters for the freshest coverage on the local restaurant and culinary scene.
That's it for this week. Best dishes, and see you next time.